First time homebuyer advice or homebuyer 101, what inspections do I need when I buy a house? People don't often think about the fact that they're going to be paying for inspections. They think about down payment, they think about closing costs sometimes, but what you guys also need to be planning for is the cost of inspections, okay? Now, it's going to be a good idea to talk to your real estate agent about, hey, the inspectors that you often use, what do they generally charge, okay? So I'm going to go over some of the most common inspections that I see people order and then how they can lead to extra inspections. So you definitely want to make sure you've got money set aside to pay for these inspections, because if you get an inspection done and you're like, oh my God, the house is a disaster, unless you negotiated with the seller for them to pay for the inspections, which is uncommon, you're on the hook for that inspection. Okay, so it's important that you guys know this, because often people will get into contract, they can spend $2,000 on inspections and not ultimately buy the house. Okay, so home inspection, we all know that everybody should get a home inspection. Now, in this market, there have been people waiving inspections, which personally I think is crazy, because I did that once. Horrible story. There's a video on it. I would strongly advise you do not waive inspections. You need to know what you're buying. It's like, would you buy a car without having a mechanic look at it? Okay, now make it a $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 car. Would you really not have a mechanic open the hood? Come on. You and I both know you would. Same thing with a house. So the home inspector's job is to go through and look for any problems. Are home inspectors perfect? No. So you guys should definitely be there when the home inspector's going through the house, if you can, and ask questions along the way. Most home inspectors are really nice. Some of them want to be able to do the whole thing without you bothering them, and then they'll talk to you at the end and go through it with you. So you want to gauge what they're comfortable with, but it definitely can be really helpful for you, because I've had it where I've seen reports and I'm like, oh my God, the tub's sinking away. But then you talk to the inspector, they're like, no, it just needs a little caulk, you're good. So definitely a way, to handle this, but home inspection, non-negotiable would be my thoughts. Now, as a lender, does the lender require a home inspection? No, we do not. Please do not send your lender any reports unless we request them. Anything you send to us, we then have to send to an underwriter. That can create additional conditions on your loan, which can push you out of contract. So do not send us any reports unless we ask for them. Very important. Okay, what else? So we got the home inspection, great. Another great inspection to get is a termite inspection or a pest report. That's to know if there's any creepy crawlies or wood-boring beetles or, termites that are eating the foundation of the house. Like, there's so much stuff that can be found on a termite report. Mold or signs of mold, which can then lead to a mold inspection. Termite inspections are very important. That's why with VA loans, in the bulk of the country, termite inspections are required as a part of the loan. Okay, and that's because they are a really big deal. Conventional, are they a requirement? No. FHA, no. VA, yes, in certain states. So if I'm buying a house, am I going to get a termite report doing a conventional loan? Oh yeah, I am, because I want to know if there's any creepy crawlies, because those things can get very expensive, very quick. And the thing about buying a house, it's not just the cost of the house when you walk through the door with your down payment and your closing costs, it's the cost over the long term. And having these reports is how you can gauge how much this house is going to cost you over the long term. If you guys have not watched the amazing movie The Money Pit with Tom Hanks and Shelley Long, I suggest you Netflix it now, okay? For you younger guys, you probably haven't seen this. It's a classic, The Money Pit. You're welcome. Watch it. Okay, if you guys have already seen it when you were a kid in the 80s, watch it again. It's very good to be cognizant of all the things that can go wrong, and I have to say that movie beautifully illustrates it. Beautifully. Feels like my last remodel. Okay, so definitely gonna get that pest inspection. What else? Okay, well, if you're buying a house on a well, you 100% should get a well inspection, and if it has a septic, you need to get a septic inspection too. Now, are these gonna be requirements of the loan? Not necessarily. VA, yes, we want a well inspection because we need to make sure the water you're drinking is drinkable. Okay, the fact that that's a requirement and they want to make sure of that tells you that not all well water is drinkable. Like, for people who haven't lived with a well and a septic, it is a different world, guys. The stuff that can go wrong with that, you've got to make sure that, you know, the water has the right, it doesn't have extra chemicals in it, it's being properly sanitized. You know, with the septic, there's leach fields, the septic tanks can crack, like there is stuff that can go on, and you definitely want to get that septic report, I would say, as quickly as possible. Because as a lender, what I'll hear is I'll be like, okay, we're ready to close. And they'll be like, no, we can't close. I'm like, what? Everything's good here. And they're like, oh, we have to replace the septic system. We have to get permits. It's going to take 4 months. What? Yeah, seriously. True story. Or we have to get a new septic tank. The septic tank's cracked, or they have to dig an additional leach field. They have to get permits for that. I mean, it can be a real, excuse the language, but it's appropriate here, shit show. Yeah, I did it. I said it. You're welcome. Okay, so septic and well, definitely get those. With the well, you want to know, you know, how many gallons it's pumping, because you want to know, you know, if you take a shower, is it going to take 4 hours to wash your hair? Like, you want to know. You also want to make sure that well's not going to go dry. And that's something, especially in California, you know, some of the drier states, I would be super concerned about. I would be trying to gauge that well as best I could. Okay, what else? Now, from this point, it's really stuff that would pop up. So let's say, for instance, on the home inspection, the home inspector says, noticed cracks in foundation, recommend a foundation report. Okay, well, guess what? That's another inspection you're gonna pay for. So now you're paying for a foundation inspector to go out. And if you go, well, it's just a recommendation, like, should I really? Yes. Yes, if they say anything about the foundation, you get a foundation person out there. I actually almost bought a house once, and the real estate agent had just said, Jen, I don't know, I think we should get a foundation person out here. It was on a hill. I got the foundation person out there. They were like, yeah, please don't buy this. Please don't buy this. Thank God the real estate agent told me to get that inspection, because otherwise I would be sliding down a hill right now. Seriously, because I was like, oh, but the house seems solid, like jumping on it. Oh God, I know. Look, I've learned a lot over the years, but that's the thing. Like, you just don't know this stuff unless you do it every day and you see all the ways that it can go wrong. That's when you realize how important these inspections are. Okay, what else could get called out? A mold inspection could get called out. So if the home inspector or the termite inspector, like if they see a patch of mold on the wall, and I know that sounds crazy, but I've actually seen it, they'll call out an additional report, because the last thing you want to buy a house is a house with a black mold, right? There was actually this huge story in Business Insider about 8 months ago, and they were talking about this gal who had bought this house in LA without ever being to it. You know, it was a COVID purchase, right? No inspections. Well, guess what? The house is filled with toxic black mold. So she's now selling it at a huge loss, because basically it's a lot, because it needs to be torn down. Get your inspections. Now, would I get a mold inspection on a house just automatically? No, I wouldn't. I would only get it if it got called out, or if I saw something that brought it to my attention. Otherwise, it's not a report you would traditionally get. Now, if you're immunocompromised or you're very sensitive to mold, should you get that report no matter what? Absolutely. But for everyone else, you know, if it's called out, definitely get it. So let's see here. Oh, another one. Are you ready? Swimming pool report. Yes, if you're looking at a house that has a swimming pool, you definitely want to get that inspected, because, you know, they need to check out the pool equipment. They need to make sure the pool doesn't have any cracks. They need to make sure the lines to the filters and everything aren't leaking. You know, you definitely want to get a pool inspection, because that stuff can be incredibly expensive. You know, fixing a crack in the pool is not a cheap or easy process. You know, with my house, we actually had a crack. I've had horrible things happen. We had a crack that was like from the pool to the filter line, so they had to dig into the concrete to repair it. It was a couple $1,000s. So you go, when you're looking at the house, you're like, oh my God, it's so pretty, it's a pool. Get an inspection. Get an inspection. You need to know how old that equipment is, because all of it can get really expensive really fast. If it has a heater, does the heater work? You know, what type of heater is it? How much should I be planning to spend on heat? If it's solar, does the solar work? There's so much stuff you guys need to know. Now, a lot of people go, well, Jen, should I get a roof inspection? Up to you. I would only get a roof inspection if it was called out in the home inspection or if the pest inspector called it out. Otherwise, I wouldn't normally go for a roof inspection unless I saw something where I was like, I better check, right? Usually, you know, they're gonna tell you how old the roof is. If the roof is 30 years old, like, you're gonna be getting a new roof soon, just accept that. But you want to make sure that if someone else calls it out, you definitely get that report. So all these reports, oh my gosh, how much can they cost? Guys, they can add up quick. There's some companies that do like a home and pest combo, and those can be like $500. Sometimes they're $700. Sometimes you have to do it separately. Well reports in a lot of places in the country are $500 to $1,000, whereas in other parts of the country, they're $50. You know, it depends on where you are in the country. So it's going to be really important, you know, talk to your real estate agent about who they use for inspections. And then I would always recommend verify on Yelp. Okay, because I hate to say this, but I've known real estate agents over the years where they'll use specific inspectors because they know they're easy. Well, guess what? As a buyer, you don't want that easy inspector. So as I've said to all of my clients since day one, it's fantastic your real estate agent recommended those people. I'm sure they're fantastic. Just double check their reviews, okay? Just double check their reviews, have a conversation with them, make sure you're comfortable with them. Because, you know, a great example, and I would say always get your own reports. This happened to me and it just happened to Alyssa. So when I bought my house, that I currently live in, you know, I used the seller's reports because they had had all the inspections. So I was like, well, they had all the inspections, so I'm sure they're accurate. Okay, those inspectors missed so much stuff, guys. It was crazy. It was crazy. Never again. Alyssa recently, same thing. She used the seller's inspection reports that they had. Everything looked clean. Well, right now she's in the middle of replacing a portion of her roof and a portion of her attic because there are mushrooms growing in it. Okay, so definitely get your own inspectors, have a conversation, walk the house with them, be comfortable. It's money, but it is money well spent because it can save you from spending thousands on stuff you never saw. So takeaways from this are, yes, get inspections and watch The Money Pit with Tom Hanks. It's a classic. It's awesome. I hope you guys like it. Questions as comments. Have you seen The Money Pit? Do you relate to The Money Pit? Has this happened to you? Please leave it. The more we all talk, the more everybody learns. As always, I'm licensed in 48 states. I would love to do your mortgage. Please don't send me your reports. I'm not going to look at them, your inspections, but yes, I would love to help. Thanks for watching, guys.